What we saw today was an absolute travesty of justice. This was not law. This was not criminal justice. This was politics. This was a political smear job. This was an attack job. This is what you see in banana republics. And it is, I am both furious and heartbroken at the same time.
It is shameful to see this, and I hope Americans are paying attention, because America, they think you are stupid.
It's Ken Harbaugh with Against All Enemies on the MeidasTouch Network. 34 counts, guilty by unanimous jury verdict on every single one. I don't think those jury members who delivered the verdict to hold the former president accountable have gotten nearly enough credit for what they did. These were ordinary Americans called upon to do their duty at a moment of enormous consequence for the country. Any one of them could have wavered, resulting in a hung jury, but they did not. Presented with overwhelming evidence of the former president's guilt, they did what was right. They had to have known that if their identities were ever revealed, their decision to convict would put them in danger. The judge's own daughter was targeted by Trump in social media posts, and his acolytes have threatened just about everyone connected to the prosecution. And now, with this guilty verdict, we have leading Republicans calling it a sham trial. Every single one of them, it seems, has lined up to defend the former president and attack our court system, and by extension, the jury that heard the evidence and rendered the verdict. That is a line that, historically, we almost never cross. But the Republican Party has become so cultish in its devotion to Trump that nothing is off limits. The formerly sane have lost their minds. Remember when Marco Rubio said this about Trump back in 2016?
And if you listen to the way he describes himself and what he's going to do, he's going to single-handedly do this and do that without regard for whether it's legal or not. Look, I think people are going to have to make up their mind. I can tell you this. No matter what happens in this election, for years to come, there are many people on the right, in the media, and voters at large that are going to be having to explain and justify how they fell into this trap of supporting Donald Trump, because this is not going to end well one way or the other.
And now, like the rest of them, Ted Cruz and Lindsey Graham and even Nikki Haley, Marco Rubio has been brought to heel. Here he is lashing out at our court system.
This is the quintessential show trial. This is what you see in communist countries. This is what I grew up having people in this community tell me about. It happened in the days after the Castro Revolution. Obviously, those led to executions. This, on the other hand, is an effort to interfere in an election.
There is a concerted, organized effort by the RNC, which is now a wholly owned subsidiary of Trump Incorporated, to bring Republican leaders in line. It's almost exactly how the mob operates.
NBC News also learned RNC political director James Blair had a call with all 50 GOP state chairs after the verdict to issue post-verdict talking points and messaging for the party. Those talking points include, "This is unjust. The conviction will be good for Republicans. We will win the appeal. And we just elected the next president of the United States."
I spoke with Ron Filipkowski, editor-in-chief of the MeidasTouch Network, former Republican, and one of the sharpest observers of what happens inside these conservative echo chambers. Well, I hope you don't take offense at this, but I feel like you can read Republicans in a way very few courtroom commentators can, having been a Republican and left the cult. How are they taking it?
Oh, it's been crazy. You know, I mean, they're just off the wall. Sure. I watch all their, I'm sort of plugged into their ecosystem. There's other people that monitor Fox News and Newsmax. I don't really do that. I'm more plugged into all their big podcasters, which, they have huge audiences. People like Charlie Kirk, Ben Shapiro, Donald Trump Jr. So these are the sort of the world that I'm plugged into. And of course, they're just off the wall, out of control. But I expected that. I guess what I was really also looking at was the other Republicans, the non-MAGA, your Mitch McConnells, even your Lindsey Grahams and some of these other people, Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley. What were they going to say? What were they going to do? I was sort of hoping that at the very least we'd get silence, that they would just say nothing and leave it alone. But that's really not allowed anymore in Trump's Republican Party. And you can see his campaign manager, Chris LaCivita, who's kind of like his heavy, his attack dog, has been monitoring all these accounts. And the second any Republican posts anything reasonable, like, hey, we have to respect the verdict, the Trump campaign jumps all over that person and attacks them. So that's what's happening. It's really like an organized crime operation in that respect, where if somebody steps out of line, they're going to whack you. The only Republican I've seen, prominent Republican, that posted anything reasonable was Larry Hogan, who's running for Senate in Maryland, who's trying to, of course, he's already won his Republican primary and he's running in a blue state. So I suppose he felt like he had to post something reasonable.
There's one other, and I want to give him a shout out here because it took a ton of guts, and that's the college Republicans. I'm going to pull up the tweet and screen share it here.
And they were attacked too by LaCivita.
Oh, viciously. It takes a ton of guts to just tell the truth. And I've been monitoring some of the leading voices on the Republican Party, and you're absolutely right. I mean, it's easy on one hand to chuckle at just how unhinged it's become, but it's bordering on incitement. I mean, some of this is potentially dangerous. I'm just going to read Mike Johnson's tweet here. Today is a shameful day in American history. The weaponization of our justice system has been a hallmark of the Biden administration. This one from former governor of Missouri. I'm not even going to say his name. The America you used to know no longer exists. Justice can no longer be found in the courts. That's some pretty inciting rhetoric. How do you feel about crossing that line? Not just criticizing a court decision, waiting for an appeal, which everyone has a right to, but saying that the justice system can no longer be trusted and we need to find justice in other ways.
And there's been multiple Republican elected officials who have called for Republican prosecutors around the country to just start randomly indicting, politicians, Democrats. Mike Collins, the congressman from Georgia, called for that this morning. Mike Huckabee, whose daughter is now the governor of Arkansas, said that some local prosecutor needs to indict Biden, right? ASAP, just come up with something, anything. It's totally unhinged. The Republican Party's gone. I mean, it's been this incremental circling the drain into Cultville. And there was a time, I think, even in 2020, I don't think they were all in on the crazy, but now they are. The handful of normal Republicans who sort of, checked everybody and keep everyone in check, they're gone. They've left. Your Kinsingers, your Cheneys, they're all excommunicated from the party. They have no say and no role. Even Ronna McDaniel, was forced out, who was fairly Trumpy, but not Trumpy enough for them. So, but that shrinks the party. The party's no longer interested in expanding their base. They're circling the wagons and doubling down and going all in on Trump.
I think Ron is on to something here. Today's Republican Party is shrinking. And with every attack on America's institutions, on our political norms, on our very ideas of decency, Republicans become more and more detached from the rest of America. I hope you'll check out my full conversation with Ron Filipkowski about the trial, the verdict, and the implications for the upcoming election. It comes out on Tuesday as a full Burn the Boats episode. Thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for watching, everyone. I have been so humbled by the support of this audience and the speed at which this show has grown. You are why I and the whole team here do this. If you're interested in bonus content, check out my Patreon page. It's free to sign up, and there's an option to donate as well. The link is right there and in the show notes. Thanks again.